So, you want to get started making music at home, but you're not sure where to start when it comes to purchasing equipment for your home studio. Well, this video is for you. There are so many different gear options these days when it comes to microphones, audio interfaces, MIDI keyboards. Don't even get me started on headphones. And so it's really easy to get decision paralysis and end up not buying anything because it becomes too difficult to decide what to get. So in this video, I'm going to make it super easy for you guys and talk you through the 9 essentials of my home studio setup. Links to those 9 essentials in the description, by the way, that has largely stayed the same for the past 10 years or so now, and is still enabling me to make great sounding music to this day. Now, the great thing about this home studio setup is that everything can be purchased from Amazon, which makes it so much easier for most people to get hold of these products. Sometimes when people recommend a relatively obscure or unknown product from a less well-known brand, depending on where you're watching from, it might simply not be available in your country, or the shipping cost might be extortionately high. And that is not what you need when you're just getting started building your very first home studio. So with that said, all of the products that I'm going to mention in this video are all available to order from Amazon in either the UK or the US, because that's where the majority of my viewers seem to be watching from. Links to both the UK and US pages are in the description. Now, I'm a big believer that even if you're just starting out or looking to make a few upgrades to your existing home studio, the most budget option doesn't always make sense. If you go cheap with some of these items, they're just going to break and you'll have to replace them eventually. And to be honest, it could actually end up costing you more in the long run than if you just invested in a high quality piece of equipment in the first place. On the flip side, you simply don't need to spend huge amounts of money to get quality products for each of these items. So in this video, the products that I mentioned are very much what I deem to be the sweet spot. So if that sounds good to you, please do consider hitting the like button because it does help small channels like mine out. Okay, so the first thing you're going to need is a computer. This is the engine of your home studio, and it will run your digital audio workstation, or DAW for short, which is the music software that your music will be recorded into. Now, if you want to use GarageBand or Logic Pro, then you will need a Mac. For Pro Tools, Cubase, Reaper, FL Studio, and other music software, you'll be okay with a PC. Although these days, it doesn't really matter what music software you want to use. They're all brilliant. But my personal recommendation would be to go Mac. It's what the majority of the pros use, and there's probably a good reason for that. Now, Macs are expensive, which is why I would recommend buying either an Apple certified refurbished Mac or an Amazon renewed Mac. I've actually made a previous video on why I think Apple's certified refurbished program is so good, and I'll leave a link up here somewhere if you fancy a watch after this video. But Amazon's renewed program is essentially the same thing. You pay less because it's a refurbished product, but the standard to which it's been refurbished is always extremely high, to the point where the product looks pretty much brand new. My daily driver is the 16-inch MacBook Pro with the M1 Pro chip, but the 14-inch will do just fine. At the time of making this video, you can actually buy on Amazon a renewed M1 Pro 14-inch MacBook Pro for under 1,600 British pounds and under $1,700 US, which is a pretty sweet deal in the US. If you're just starting out, 16 gigabytes of unified memory will be more than sufficient for your everyday needs. Now, if you are looking to buy a MacBook for music production and aren't 100% sure which model or configuration to go for, then I will leave a link to my MacBook buying guide for music production here somewhere, which may help you decide. Okay, so you've chosen your computer and now you need to decide on a DAW. Which software is best for your specific needs? Well, me personally, I've been using Logic for the best part of 10 years now, and I swear by it. However, it will cost you money, so if you aren't ready to take the plunge yet, I just recommend downloading GarageBand for free. It has most of Logic's features anyway, so in my view, it's just the perfect DAW if you're just getting started. Okay, on to item number 3, the audio interface, also known as a sound card. So the purpose of the audio interface is to translate your analog audio, so audio coming from a guitar amp for example, into a language that your computer can comprehend digitally. Computers do have built-in sound cards, but they're generally of low quality and so aren't suitable for music production. The audio interface I use is the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2. In the UK, you can actually get this on Amazon for just over £100, which is an amazing price for something that's built like a tank and will last you for many, many years to come. Now, it is a bit more expensive in the US at $189 from Amazon, but it's worth it nonetheless. I've used Focusrite products for over 10 years now, and they're super reliable, and I've never had any issues with any of their products. There are two things to consider, however, when you're deciding which Focusrite audio interface to buy. The first is how many inputs and outputs you'll need. For me, because I always record alone, I'm only ever using one input at any one time, and I only really use two at a time if I'm recording a part and also recording myself for YouTube. Focusrite has a bunch of options on their website depending on your needs, but if you're just getting started, I would recommend the 2i2 over the Solo. It's always good to have a second input in case you need the flexibility. The second thing you need to consider is how the Focusrite interface is actually going to connect to your laptop. The latest versions of the 2i2 connect via USB-C, which is ideal if you have one of the newer MacBook Pros. However, I do believe the second gen and the first gen versions are USB-A. So if you do end up purchasing a second-hand older model, just be wary that you will need an adapter. Of course, I'll include a link in the description to these adapters as well. I almost exclusively use Anker for all of my peripherals. They're just such great quality, and I've never had any issues with them. Okay, so now we've chosen our computer, our DAW, and our audio interface. We're now ready to record some music. However, we need a way to listen back to our music to see what it sounds like. Now, you see a lot of debate online as to whether you should be buying headphones or monitors or both. But the reality is, monitors are only worth having if your room is acoustically treated. Which, if you're just starting out, like if your home studio is just a corner in your bedroom, then investing in a good set of monitors is just going to be a complete waste of money. Everything you play through them will sound off, and you might just end up training your ears the wrong way. You are much better off buying a good quality set of headphones to monitor and mix your music with. The main benefit of headphones, of course, is that they sound the same everywhere. Whether you're in a coffee shop or on a train or on a plane, the room doesn't matter. They're also significantly cheaper than a pair of monitors. And contrary to popular belief, of course you can mix music on them. Andrew Sheps is just one of many mixing engineers that have actually mixed radio-ready songs on headphones.
Why would you mix on headphones?
Well, why would you not mix on headphones? I started mixing on headphones when I started mixing stuff in the box and I was traveling, which were two things that happened because of each other. I'd be in a hotel room. I do not have a pair of speakers with me. I work on very large, non-powered speakers. Carry those around with a power amp would be ridiculous. When you mix on speakers, you've got to set them up somewhere, so you now have to take the room into account.
Yep.
You have no choice.
Yep.
You're at the mercy of the acoustic environment the speakers are in.
Mm-hmm.
I use Sony MDR 7506s. They're cheap. They sell them on Amazon. They last, with heavy use, a couple of years before they start to get a little bit tired. Get a new pair. They sound exactly the same. I've been buying them now for over 20 years.
So there you go. My pick is the Audio-Technica ATH M50Xs. Doesn't that name just roll off the tongue? These headphones are possibly my favourite tech product of all time. You can find them for under £130 in the UK on Amazon or under $150 in the US. I've been using these headphones since I was about 15 years old, and I've never felt the need to upgrade them. For good reason, they're absolutely stunning for the price. They've got a flat frequency response, crystal clear highs, clarity in the low end, and they reproduce the true sound of your music really accurately. I mean, there's a reason why when you watch footage of your favourite artists in the studio recording their music, they're all wearing the same headphones. If they're good enough for Tay-Tay, they're good enough for me. Go and get yourself a pair, you will not be disappointed. Okay, so we're now set up with a home studio rig to record and play back those recordings. But what about recording vocals? Well, for that, you will need a microphone. Now, I personally have two microphones. The one you see me speak into right here, which is the Shure SM7B dynamic microphone. I also have a Rode NT1A, which is a large diaphragm condenser mic, which I've used in the past to record vocals for songs. Now, this Shure SM7B is a dynamic microphone. So what does that mean? Well, it's less sensitive and it will pick up less of the room noise as a result, whereas the Rode NT1A is a dynamic mic, so it will pick up a lot of the room sound because it's so sensitive. And because it's so sensitive, you have the added benefit of more clarity in the high end. So which one should you buy? Well, it depends on your room. If you've got a bad sounding room, if it's not been acoustically treated, if it's a bit echoey, then honestly, you're much better off getting the Shure SM7B. I've used the Rode NT1A in the past to record some of my older songs. Link here if you fancy checking those out. And I'll tell you what, it's been such a pain in the past to try and remove harsh frequencies from my vocals that somehow make their way into the recording in a bad sounding room due to the sound reflections that you get when you have no dampening. Now, if you do have a room with lots of dampening in it, or a wardrobe full of clothes to record your vocals to deaden the sound, then the Rode is probably the best option. In the US, you can get the Rode NT1A 5th generation for $234 or in the UK, £249 from Amazon. The Shure SM7B is more expensive at £379 in the UK, but it's actually quite a bit cheaper in the US for some reason at just $359. So those are my options for microphones, but whether it's better to go for a dynamic microphone like this one or a large diaphragm condenser like the Rode is up to you. So you have a microphone, but you'll also need a microphone stand or a boom arm like the one here attached to my desk. This one here is the Rode PSA-1 Professional Studio Boom Arm. I've had this for about 6 months or so now, and it's the perfect companion for the Shure SM7B. You can get this one from Amazon in the UK for £82 or in the US for just over $100. It's great quality and it should last a lifetime. However, if you're likely to be moving your microphone around a lot or traveling, recording in multiple places, then a microphone stand is likely a better option. Hercules are my go-to brand for microphone stands. I have their MS533B model, which you can find on Amazon in the UK for just £59 or $85 in the US. This particular model has a 2-in-1 boom clamp, so you can convert the stand from basically a straight stand to a boom arm with a lever in just a few seconds. Super versatile for when you either just want to record vocals or you want to mic up a drum kit or a guitar amp. Okay, microphone cables, also known as XLR cables. The Rode NT1A, if I'm not mistaken, does come already with an XLR cable in the box. However, if you do end up purchasing one of these bad boys, just know you got to buy the cable separately. I've been using these cables recently from Fiber. I think that's how you say it. Not entirely sure how you say that, to be honest, but they're inexpensive and they do the job really well. And they're super high quality for the price, with the wires being braided also. For less than £20 here in the UK, you get a 2-pack which should last you a while. Now, if you are working with live instrumentation like electric guitars or bass guitars, then you will need some high quality guitar cables. My favorite brand, without a doubt, that I've ever used is Klotz cables. Now, if there's anything that you shouldn't cheap out on for me, it's guitar cables. My advice would be to spend the money on good quality cables. I have bought super cheap cables in the past and they just break so easily. I would say that Klotz is more expensive than your average brand, but they do stand the test of time and they're really well built in my opinion. Ernie Ball is also another great brand, so be sure to check out their cables as well. And last but not least, if you are looking to make music with software instruments, then you will likely need a MIDI keyboard as well. Regardless of what DAW you end up using, it will come preloaded with sounds for different instruments. You could, in theory, use a computer keyboard, like a piano. I mean, I remember when Apple released those Touch Bar MacBook Pros, and producers started trying to use the Touch Bar like a MIDI keyboard. Fun, but highly impractical. An external MIDI keyboard controller will just make things so much easier and more practical. Not to mention more expressive as well. Most MIDI keyboards are controllers only, i.e. they don't make any sounds on their own. You connect them via USB to your computer, and they send signals to the software in your computer, which then generates the sounds that you hear in your headphones. Now, I'll be honest here, this product is the hardest one for me to recommend, mainly because I don't really use software instruments. Pretty much all of what I make music-wise is recorded using real instruments. So I'm probably not the best person to ask, to be honest, when it comes to MIDI controllers. Now, what I do know for sure is that you can get some great MIDI controllers for under £100 or $100. Amazon has a great selection, and whether you're looking for a simple keyboard or a controller with a drum pad and all the frills, there's loads to choose from, but I've heard great things about this one in particular, the Akai Professional MPK Mini Plus. So there you go guys, 9 studio essentials to help you start making music at home right away. I'm always keen to hear from you guys what you've been using in your home studio gear wise. Be sure to let me know in the comments below what your favourite product is from these 9 essentials, and if there's anything else you recommend for beginners or people just starting out making music at home. We're all always on the lookout for new finds after all, aren't we? Do hit that like button to show your support, subscribe to the channel will be hugely appreciated, almost at that 1000 mark now, and whilst we're on the topic of making music at home, if you are wondering what to watch next, then you may be interested in my Making a Song on an iPad series. I'll also leave a link to my MacBook buying guide for music production as well. Thank you all ever so much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one.